some of you have been on a few of these meetings already. For those that haven't, this is to update the 12 pieces of guidance we put together 18 months, 2 years ago on 12 fire critical assets. Basically to get them up to date in terms of the Fire Safety and the Building Safety Act. But we've been getting actually quite a lot of new information from, given the depth of work that was put in. It's quite surprisingly, we've got a lot of new information during these meetings, not necessarily all to do with time. I think possibly the best thing is, apologies again to people who've heard it all before, but we've got to be honest, we've got a lot of new members of BIM4Housing, a lot, and just over half of the meetings attended so far have been new people. So we do need to kind of give them a bit of context. So George will do that now.
Okay, I'll try and skip through this fairly quickly again, because yeah, so just to put in context, BIM4Housing, we're trying to, we took over management of BIM4Housing about 3 years ago, and what we've done is moved it away from being about 3D modeling to being about better information management. And what we've done is created 6 working groups who meet once a quarter, once every 2 months, so 6 meetings a year, to determine what information or what things could be achieved more effectively if they have better information. And as a result of that, we set up different work streams to carry out particular tasks. These tend to run for a couple of months. So we've come up with standardized data templates, reusable data libraries, the fire safety critical components that we're going through this week and next week. We're doing work on carbon and also the digital record. So just to put this in context, what we're discovering is that different people need different information for different purposes, and everybody needs different levels of detail. And what we want to do is identify what information might be on a data sheet or might be going into the documentation that is being generally provided, and what is specific to that particular job, which might be, for example, commissioning figures and things like that. Also, what we're wanting to do is to make sure that the fire risk assessments and fire safety, the safety case reports, are actually a live document that's being constantly updated and changed when risks and assessments or when things change, the risk can be rerun. And things like inspections, we want to make sure that they're tied back to an individual asset. So in terms of fire dampers, I regularly hear, in particular on existing buildings, but sadly it's also true on new build, that nobody's properly recording where they are, which, you know, is something that we need to overcome. So what we're trying to do is address the fact that what we've now got are lots of different software applications, great information that is being used to collect the golden thread. So in this case, we've got a door, we've got the information about the door, and the system is highlighting here what's missing, which could be a document or it could be some data. That can then be also connected with manufacturer's product data. And also we can then locate where things are. So we think that this is the way forward to be able to tie it back to a unique asset, so that if somebody's then using a mobile app like Plan Radar to go and do an inspection, the inspection isn't being done against that fire damper. Sorry, the inspection is being done against that fire damper, that specific fire damper, not simply recording that an inspection was done. if that makes sense, because it might be that it's done by somebody using Plan Radar one day, or Risk-Base or Hilti in 2 years' time, 3 years' time. And what we want to do is make sure that that inspection then becomes part of the golden thread and feeds into, for example, Civica. We want to make sure that information is, or some information off this data sheet is machine readable. Now, when we embarked on this journey, I was trying to get it all to be machine readable. And I've now concluded that really what we should be doing is concentrating on the key information, in this case for a door, fire rating. But fire rating, we ought to be picking that out as machine readable information, because on different doors it's described differently. So what we want to do is have a situation where it's simple for people to pick this information up and assign it to the object, but still be supported by a good document. Now, to achieve that, we've been working collaboratively with HACT, that's the Housing Association Charitable Trust, and the like, and quite a few other organisations, to come up with some standardised data templates. That's part of what we're doing here today, that can then be used on existing buildings and new, and organise the information so it can be consumed by any different software application. This is part of the exercise that we've been doing. So, for example, here we've got an AOV. That AOV, we've classified it according to Uniclass. So that should then be simply identified. But it might also be that people use different terms for it. Maybe that automatic opening vent is actually also maybe called a smoke vent. So in the database, you're able to manage that, and then through that, we've then focused on which asset types are fire related, which ones are safety related. So again, this is all coming back to a degree of standardization. I don't know how many of you are familiar with COBE, but this is the international standard for holding information about for product information. So manufacturer, model number, but here you'll see that could be for a door, it could be for a fire damper, it could be for an air handling unit. The thing that makes it different is the additional attributes, as they're called, that are relevant to, let's say, a damper. But deciding what those attributes should be is a real challenge. We've got the BIM attributes, IFC. We've also got the ones that CIBSE have produced. We've got NRM, and we've got the system that wholesalers and merchants use, called ETIM. So all of those are very relevant for different purposes. So here we've got, against this AOV, we've got the attributes that are coming from IFC. Now, you might look at those and say, if you're a designer, you'd want to know this information. But if you're doing inspections, or if you're an asset manager, you might only want to know what the fire rating is. Yeah. So what we're trying to do today is to get you as subject matter experts to help us understand what these data sets are, because if we've got them, we can then publish them and get them collected on site. So this all folds into the initiative that L&Q set up, called the Golden Thread Initiative. This was to really inform the government as to what the golden thread should contain. And we had 10 working groups. I led the asset and survey information group, and really asked people like you, and in fact some of you, what data do we need to know about a fire damper? And really, in most cases, people said it depends. So Paul's going to show us an example of that in a moment. We've gone through that exercise now for 12 different asset types. And this is just an example of the way in which we've done that. So here we've got understanding, people that don't understand fire doors, for example, might not appreciate that it's a composite of a number of different component elements. And what we wanted then to do, for the HSE asked us to look at this from the point of view of you've got something props up, a fire in a particular room. How do we prevent the spread of smoke? Or how do we make it safe for the residents to get out? Now, one way of doing that is by having compartment walls and dampers. And but if that fails, if any of those individual assets fail, you've got to make sure that the smoke control systems work, and also the detection systems. So we use that to frame the question as to what risks does a particular asset mitigate, so that we can understand that side of it. Also, what do people do to fire dampers to stop them from working? What information do we need for different purposes? What information or what tasks do we need to maybe have documented so that we can make sure that things have been installed, commissioned, inspected, and maintained properly? Should we have some standardized steps? The same with competency. What standards should we working to in terms of competency? And then how should products be recorded? How should changes be recorded? And if we can do this properly, we can get information so that it can be held in an auditable form, and we're not reliant on it being put into the models. The same data might be used in procurement applications or inspection or maintenance. And by doing that once, it can then be applied many times using APIs to different software applications. And that means that the new guidance, for example, BS 8644, we can take that data, add it to the template, and then it updates everything. So that's me, Richard.
Excellent. Thank you. I think that hopefully gives everybody a bit of context to exactly what we're doing here today. Right, we're going to dive straight in. We're going to go to question 1A. So we're talking about fire dampers and what risks do fire dampers mitigate? If you just take a minute, just have a look through those. Oh, what I should have said, we record this session, and after the session, the video is available, but we also take high point notes of the session, which include what's written in the chat. So please do use the chat. It's great if you use the chat because it means we don't miss anything. At different points, if you've got a comment, I'm going to ask you to put it in the chat so we don't lose it. Anything that's pertinent to adding on to or changing any of the questions, just we'll do live. Anything there that anyone's got a view on, or something that isn't there that should be added in? Deanne. Oh, that's a message, sorry.
I just the fact that not every fire damper resists the spread of smoke. So I don't know whether you want to split it in some way.
What, in terms of being aware that that's the case?
Yes. So I mean, so if you that line that the cursor's next to, risk of speed of fire and smoke spread, if you use fire dampers, standard curtain fire dampers, you're not going to prevent any risk of the speed of smoke spreading.
Should we take smoke
Right, I'm
out
with
of
you.
the reference to this, Paul? Do you think?
Well, maybe we take smoke out, and then we just have at the end certain dampers prevent the risk of spreading smoke, or help prevent the risk of spreading
like
smoke.
an NB kind of note at the end.
Yes, yeah.
I
Right,
think
just so you understand that, take smoke out of that black bracket.
I think this comes back. Yeah, I think on both of them. Take the mention of smoke out on each of them. The purpose of, I think part of the issue here is, as we were discussing yesterday with smoke dampers, the industry, the maintenance industry, calls them smoke and fire dampers.
Everybody does, and then there's the confusion with smoke control dampers. But the fire damper is to stop fire, and some of them reduce the spread of smoke, but not all of them.
Right, so that's just an addition, a plus.
Yes.
That's not really.
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah.
I think, could you take it off on the next one up as well, Jess? Good.
And I think the bottom one.
We deleted that one yesterday because in fact, though, in this case it does count now, because in theory it stops it and keeps it in the building. So
right, yeah, it's different contents, isn't it?
Different content. Yeah.
What about the one that says risk of smoke damage? Because I think, as you just said,
well,
obviously
it's the same thing. You're right. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, so the risk of smoke damage one, just take out totally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also,
anything else? Anybody?
The one we had earlier in the week was the risk of system failure, because they don't really mitigate that, do they? That's a risk.
Yeah, I think we take that out
to the
as
fire
well.
dampers.
A comment, I think you're right. Yeah, let's take that
Steve,
out.
you were talking.
Yeah, we moved that one. I think in the in one of the other working groups, that system failure one, the AOV, we moved that into a different section because it was more relevant there. But that one that says risk of compromising security, that I might be being stupid, but that doesn't really make any sense to me, because unless we're being robbed by Spider-Man crawling through the ducting, I'm not sure whether security comes into that, or am I just reading that wrong?
I'd agree with that.
Yeah,
I'd agree with that as well.
one can go. Yeah.
Okay, take that one out, Jez. Steve Fitchett.
Tom Cruise is getting old now, so yeah.
He's not. He's just released another film.
That doesn't mean he's not getting old. He's just very fit for his age.
Yeah, we'd all like to be like Tom Cruise, wouldn't we?
I don't know what contaminated. I don't know what
I'm
it
a
would
lot
do.
taller than him, so I'm all right.
I don't know what it would do as regards to stopping contaminated firefighting water runoff.
Yeah,
nothing at all.
Nope.
Where's that?
I think probably get rid of the last one completely. Really, I think it's a yes, but we can't really say that it does that. So,
Okay.
Can I just ask a question? Did you say you had a working group on smoke dampers as well?
Yesterday, yes.
Smoke control dampers, yes.
But not motorized fire and smoke dampers.
No. Oh dear. Right. Okay.
Oh dear.
So,
Rant coming.
Anyone
Paul,
should we
put a reference? Should we put a reference to your book in here?
No, it might be in my book. I don't know. But anyway, no, there's three types of dampers. We've got an FD, which is a curtain fire damper. And we've got an FD with an ES classification that's motorized, which is a motorized fire damper. And we have a smoke control damper, which is a completely different product with completely different standards. So, and you don't need to call it a motorized smoke control damper because it has to have a motor. So a motorized fire damper with an ES classification is what we commonly call a fire and smoke damper. But you can't use them for the different applications, because if you do, it won't work.
What you're saying is us people like us dumb builders here go and select the wrong product. Stop nodding, Steve Gore. It's not funny.
I don't know whether is it worth putting maybe just a little paragraph maybe at the beginning of there might be one there already, just really clarifying what the differences are, because I think there is a lot of ambiguation amongst many people that we have
got a section that explains what a fire damper is, but I think we've only got 2 fire dampers in there.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot more.
We mentioned yesterday, gentlemen, that we would call them motorized fire dampers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. There it was. You just missed it. You just went past it. There we go. So don't use the smoke. Don't use smoke in conjunction with. It's in the final note, so it's there. So yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Excellent. Right, let's go on to 1B. What compromises the fire damper's ability to perform as required? So what are the risks to the fire damper?
So this, if you remember, we indented the 1, 2, 3, control, 4, 5, 6, 7. We indented those below the first one. In fact, all.
Right. So everything above what?
Well, everything including risk of aluminium, as far as I can see at the moment. Go below the first one. Go below the first one.
Right, Jess, can you see risk of aluminium? It's two bullet points below the fold.
So the second one down to there.
There, can you see it?
One up. That's it. Yeah.
That's the one. Everything above that go indented from number 1. The first bullet. That's it. No.
Indented below. That's it.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. Indent that.
If you highlight it and just press tab, it should do it for you.
Right, now put a colon. Wait.
And the sorry, the risk of aluminium is there as well. That one as well.
That's it. That's it. And put a colon. Right, go up to the. Put a colon instead of full stop. That's it. Brilliant. Excellent. Okay. Anything else?
Well, risk of the asset's not been tested against the cause and effect document is a bit irrelevant, because the cause and effect is it shuts. If it's got a cause and effect, it's wrong.
Right.
So that can go.
Okay.
I'll mention it, but I don't know if it's relevant. We had a damper on a job where the installer didn't take off the strap for a curtain damper, and the client didn't inspect it, so it's physically not going to work. But kind of want to think it's covered. So again,
that's the norm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll come to that. We'll come to that because I think we've got a section on installation.
Okay.
I've never
What
seen
about
that,
the
and
risk
even
of-
Scott, have you?
Not on a
So
maze.
Scott-
Right, let's scroll down, Jess. To
Sorry.
What about the risk of the way it's designed being incompatible with maintenance?
we've
It
got
all
maintenance.
starts with design. It's got you can have the best of everything. If it's designed wrong and installed right, it's still wrong.
Yeah.
And that's generally where my issue tends to start from. Let's just put every service, jam it all in, and give no concept to how it's actually going to be done later. Because it all looks great on a drawing. It doesn't matter what you do after the rest of it. If you haven't designed it properly, you haven't put the consideration in. Or better still, ask someone who does it for a living to have a look at your drawing before you send it out to be priced.
Steve,
Obviously,
I think it's covered here. If you look down, failure to install properly, and then
No, that's well after where I'm talking.
are
Like I
you
said, you could be
talking
the best
about?
installer in the world. All you're going to do is install
Steve's
the
talking
drawing
about
given.
right at the beginning.
Before we've even touched the damper, before we've even broken ground, if you do not put thought into where a fire damper is going in regards to can it be accessed, what services are going, the term coordinated drawing is an absolute oxymoron.
okay, right.
That's a CDM issue then, isn't it? Because obviously under CDM, you've got to give consideration to the ability to be able to maintain it. So fully agree with what you're saying.
I'm going to just call
that
the
is
whole.
the biggest problem, though.
Yeah, could right. So, Paul McSolly.
Which one? Yeah,
Paul McSolly.
Let's
Can
put
you
your camera back on.
Can you spend 5 minutes just talking through what you're trying to do? But it does need to be 5 minutes because that answers Steve's answers or questions.
Right, well, can we? Sorry. Can we do that when we finish this question?
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Let's part that. Let's finish this question first, please.
Agreed.
Okay, we've got to materials. Right, scroll down a bit. Just.
Yeah, I think it's a bit like yesterday. We weren't quite sure what to do with materials. So.
Didn't we take water damage out yesterday?
Yeah.
I would have said I don't. Yeah, that would need to come out.
Good.
Laboratory testing is only very limited to about 3 different types of testing as well.
That's good. But it was about 5 years ago then.
Yeah. Take some out. Okay, installation.
So what we're saying is that there's a risk at number 1 that if the coordination drawings are not correct, you will make it impossible to have access to dampers.
Yeah, and also as well though, even if the drawings are correct, it's making sure they've been installed correctly so we can get to the dampers.
Yeah,
the ducting and the damper will go in first. So
it's a bit like Steve said earlier at the start there, and I think Steve, you'd be surprised how aligned we are to what you're saying with this. Is that dampers have breakaway joints, they have different frames. You still got other space to get inside.
I'm sorry. We're going to do that after we finish this question. Okay.
We've just got to get through it, Paul.
That's fine. It's fine.
Right. Let's. So installation.
The section there that says fire damper not in line with compartment element, does that reference that if you've got a wall that's 30 minutes fire rated, but you put a 60-minute fire rated damper in that hasn't been tested in a 30-minute wall, is that what we're kind of referring to? I might be reading that wrong again.
It's to overcome the requirement in ADB, etc., that the damper should be installed in the centre of the wall, or potentially slightly offset. But other damper manufacturers have now tested where it can be away from the wall, but then there's still the detail of how you connect to the wall and on the other side of the wall is still important.
Right, get you. Thank you.
Anything else? Yeah, keep going, Jess. We get to the bottom.
You can actually get a self-drilling aluminium tech screw now. Just to confuse you all. You can actually get a
Can you send me the link to that,
aluminium
please?
tech screw.
Can you send me the link to that, please?
Yeah, I will do. I'll get it off my boss though, because he spent time looking for it.
Yeah,
Steve.
Somebody did make a proposal.
Yeah, Steve. Is the point that you made there, transit tape still in place, locking shutter? Is that the point you were making?
It's me.
I think he's gone, but yes, it was. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, good. Off.
Looks like it.
Is it worth adding another line in? Again, what I just said a second ago was that just checking to make sure that obviously the damper that's being used and the test criteria that damper's been subjected to is relevant to its application. So 30-minute damper, rated damper, and a 60-minute rated wall. You know, obviously it hasn't been. If it hasn't been tested to that, then should it be used?
Can I just jump in a sec? So I might get this wrong, but I'm going to try not to. So the manufacturers test in three different criteria for their installation into walls, floors, concrete walls, and plasterboard. If your installation isn't as per the manufacturer, you have to go to the manufacturer to ask them whether or not it's suitable for that product. That's your starting point.
Cool. Okay, thanks.
Have you covered if the damper goes in with other services through the same opening, which shouldn't be happening in this list?
You've got reference there to 15882 part 5, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah, missed that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, just scroll down a bit. Scroll down and see what we've got left. Right, question 2. All right, sorry about that, but I just really want to get the question finished before we break because we lose our track. Yeah, Paul, do you want to do that 5 minutes to feed into Steve's issue?
Is Steve still there?
Sorry, yeah,
Yes,
I don't know
yeah,
what my system's shooting out.
Yeah, sorry. I thought we lost you. Then we'd upset and you dropped off or something. So that's all good.
No. I'll do that after your 5 minutes.
That's all good. What it is, I think what it is, Steve, is that we're all in the same headspace. Is that we looked at it with Paul a long while ago and went, if you think about the first thing is the product's got to be appropriate for the function for which it's designed. So it's about the space, the risk of either side of it. So some are ES, some need to be E, some might need EIS. Then you go look at it and you go, okay, now you've ascertained what the function should be. You can then start looking at actually how you install it, the maintenance requirements for it, because there's sort of like 8 frame types of dampers that kind of exist. And we've sort of gone, you know, dampers have breakaway joints. Pipes don't have breakaway joints like dampers do. It's generally a continuous system throughout. That's why they're classed as CC. Some are used if you've got a joint too close to the wall, which can like drop the pipe off. But generally, that isn't what they do on those tests. So when you look at this one here, you got to go, well, someone's got to get in, especially you've got things like opposed blade or parallel blades because they're ES, you know, it could be single blade. Someone's got to install the breakaway joint. You've got to put a TR19 access into it. And we see commonly, like you probably do, risers that are designed with 90 millimeters of space behind the wall to the duct. And we go, we can't get in, we can't seal it, we can't verify you can actually put a breakaway joint, there's no space, and you can't clean it, it just doesn't work. And that's the bit I think you're pertaining to as well. Is it right for the function? Actually, can you do the work involved to install it correctly?
Does that answer your question, Steve?
It is relevant to my question. It's just the point being that, like I say, everything, you can have all of the best information. The people who need to sort it out are the people who are designing it and keep putting it. Even now, I could probably pull up half a dozen drawings. They just put things where they just make no sense. They make sense to them because it's designed with the easiest possible linear drawing. It's not designed with, and there is never, I have spoken to numerous consultants, whatever.
3 minutes.
They never consult with the people who are doing the maintenance, not once. From my
Okay,
experience.
so perhaps when we're looking at our risk to the product, if we start off with the risk of inappropriate or something that
just something to say, something just detailing that whoever's designing it needs to take advice from not the builder, not the construction team. I don't care who's deals with it in between practical completion and design. It's the people who deal with it after that. Because 99 times out of 100, the installer never comes back to that building unless there's a fault.
Steve, I think this is really important. Could you put that in the chat for me? Can you type that into the chat? Can you type that into the chat for me?
I can't see it yet at the minute. I've had to do it online. I can't. My Teams isn't working on normally, so where's the chat?
It's at the top. There's the little white icons. It's the third from the left.
Sorry, I've got a webcam. Yeah. Yeah.
You got it. You can type that in, then we won't lose it. Brilliant. Thank you.
I've just popped something in as well, Richard. So
I can't put anything in the chat.
Good.
Oh, we'll have to have you live then.
You've censored me, Richard. That's what you've done. No, I think that there is Steve. There is some good work on all of this, Steve, out there, which will get released, and it shows you some nice pictorials. It's just
okay.
I
So
totally agree with what you're saying.
So question 2, we're focusing on information. We're doing this slightly different from the way we did it last time, because we're going to be drilling down rather more than we did last time. George, do you want to introduce this, because it's more your bag than it is mine? You're on mute, George.
Sorry, I was trying to stop echoing.
You're watching the football in the background.
No.
You're supposed to say goal.
Jess, have you got the fire damper things? Sorry, carry on, Richard. I'll come back in a moment.
Well, I've got the. How can I carry on? I haven't got the question.
Okay, bear with me 1 second.
And George,
I've got it.
And Joe, I sent through the other thing earlier for you as well, which was the culmination of where that went to, if you remember. So,
right, okay.
That's what it was. You know, probably just, I don't want to bog this down. I don't take more than 10 seconds, Richard. I think we went through this originally, and even to echo Steve's point, you went through all the characteristics you require to record for one damper in one location. It was enormous, if you remember, when you started getting into it.
Yes. I'm almost there.
Okay.
It's just not opening up properly.
We'll call this a comfort break.
For some reason it's not opening up.
George, it's just an enormous file, if you remember.
Yeah. Okay, I've got an early version of it. Right, so let me show this. Oh God, what's going on with that? Oh, this is awful.
Josh, do you want me to share the
Goodness me.
Excel sheet that Paul sent?
Yes, please. It's just not opening up the Excel.
So which tab should I go to?
Right, are you showing it now?
Yeah.
Okay. How do we get to the racy bit?
It was a
Or-
BIM coordinated sheet at the bottom. I think it was just a refresh. Which the one someone says BIM coordinated sheet to the left, you go in the opposite way.
Left. You go in the opposite way.
Yeah. Keep going left.
Just keep going left.
Yeah, this is, I clicked on it. It's coming up.
Yeah,
All right.
it's
Yeah.
if you remember, it's a real big file.
Okay.
If you go right up to the top, I've got to get rid of the stuff on the right eventually, George, because it's no longer relevant now. But it was how we were doing the as usual, the whole ontology of it all, if you remember at the time. And Paul knows this because Steve Gore's laughing because he's seen it before as well. We were going through it the last time. You know,
Okay, so can you do that now? Can you show that now, George?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Sorry.
And just for laughs, this was why it was so hard to try and do something in BIM that relates to all the key characteristics of it, because the asset data just don't exist.
Well, this is appalling.
I know I've got to delete the stuff on the right because we were doing a comparison at one point. So
Can I ask a question to Steve who raised that query just whilst that's happening in the background for space fill?
Yeah, sure.
Steve, I work with Paul. I'm a design manager, and we try and get the designers to take into account maintenance. But just looking at a smoke damper on advanced air, it doesn't say in their documentation what they need for maintenance. I mean, do you need to have like 600 clear? Do you need to be up? No, not the frequency. It's like a diagram with a person standing right next to it, showing the space you need would be massively helpful.
Never gonna happen.
No, I know. So I'm saying it'd be good for all the.
No, but the reason why it's never going to happen is the important thing. So, you know the issues as regards to tech screws at the minute?
Yeah.
A fire damper is not part of the ducting. It is technically what is installed in the ducting, but it's not part of the ducting, it's part of the building fabric, yeah?
Okay.
So, when a fire damper is tested, it is tested in installation in the building fabric. So that's why you've got the different HVAC frames and plasterboard frames and such. They don't test the ducting. It's nothing to do with them. If you didn't put a piece of ducting on, it doesn't affect the damper's efficacy. It's also, you can have fire, I have numerous fire, well, probably multiple tens of thousands of fire dampers that are just sat in walls as regards to air transfers. I've got about 1,000 in one building. So
okay,
that's their only concern. So whilst they will say there needs to be access for maintenance, which they all say on all of the documents, it's up to you to then interpret that collaboratively with DW144 and TR19. They don't care. I've had this discussion with someone the other day at.
Okay, listen, we're gonna have to move on. George, are you ready to go or not?
No, I just can't open the file.
Okay, well, we're gonna go. Just put question 2 back up there, please. We're gonna have to move on.
I'm sorry.
No. I'm sorry to cut you short, but we're just not gonna. Okay, so what information is needed about fire dampers to ensure they perform as required? Just flick through so we can see what headings we've got. Right. No headings. Okay. So have a look through those. Anything you disagree with?
I've never seen mold resistance and paint.
I don't think, mold resistance and paintability aren't really required. The other point is if you paint something, any fire resisting product, if you paint it, you're probably destroying the fire resistance capabilities. So Could everybody turn their microphone off if they're not speaking, please?
Yeah, there's a lot of feedback. Yeah. Okay, right. So take those two out, Jess. Great. Okay, scroll down a little bit. Okay, stop there. Okay, if we look at those.
So can you just ask, you know, it says test evidence of compliance to match the intended use. Is that prior to design? Is that prior to installation at design, or after that? Installation.
That's be prior installation, wouldn't it?
Well, I would hope so, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is a pre-installation checklist as opposed to a during contract installation checklist.
It's information that may be needed. At which point it's needed, Steve, we're not defining here. What that's we're just basically gathering the information that can then be used at different stages.
But I'd say my point is, generally, the only people who are ever going to see this are designers and the main contractor. The subby's not seeing this.
No, and you can see that's the bit we're trying to tackle in the industry. We're trying to tackle, so they actually understand they're selecting what's appropriate for the circumstances, and actually the combination of all the devices in the wall work for the supporting constructions of all of it.
Paul, were you the Paul who was speaking to me before?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I'll contact you on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I want to have a chat with. Hopefully, we can sort what you were saying. I'd like to spend a bit of time with you on that.
Perfect, mate.
Okay. Anybody got any further contention with anything on that list so far? Okay, scroll down a bit more, Jess. Yeah, go to the last one. Okay, there we go. Now you've seen them all. Is there anything we've missed?
Again, I'm not so sure about the true cause and effect part.
Sorry, where's there? Yeah.
Because essentially all fire dampers they will either shut when the fusible link goes, or if they're ES in control of the system, they will shut. I mean, if this is intended to include the fans should go off. If it's confusing it with smoke control, then they shouldn't be fire dampers anyway.
That's right.
All right, delete that one, Jess.
Just before you do, what about the cause and effect of non-maintainable systems? As regards to the cause and effect.
Well, fire dampers shouldn't be installed in non-maintainable systems.
Yeah, I know it's to make sure they're maintainable or anything, but it's understanding what happens if it's not. I know this seems like people don't see that the inability to maintain things as being that detrimental. There's numerous sites, numerous services where people don't maintain things, and it's not got a life-threatening issue if it doesn't work. But like you said, as the gentleman just said before about the transport tape still being on the damper that was seen, it's half the time because people didn't maintain it because they don't contemplate what the issue is. But having a cause and effect of non-maintenance might make them think twice as regards to why maintenance is so important.
Well, yeah, but I think we're talking about this is the control system.
That's what I'm saying.
I think if we're what we need in here is the maintenance requirements, which is just above the break in the page, and the fact that they're not that you can't ignore them is neither here nor there.
people have ignored them for the last 30 years. Is my point.
Absolutely. I'm not going to argue with you what they have done, but yeah.
But this my issue is, and so I'll go back to the tech screws. I've spoken to people who've been doing this job 50 years. I've spoken to people who were asked to be chairman of BISA. Didn't know what a what's the name sacrifice joint was. Never needed to know what it was because no one told him that tech screws shouldn't have been fitted in fire dampers. The point is,
no,
people
but
are not aware.
It's been in the instructions for 20 years.
Right. So
which reiterates my point. People don't read them.
Taking this off or leaving it?
I was saying more cause and effect. Next to where it says maintenance requirements, a statement as regards to the cause and effect of inability to maintain. That's all. It's not. As you say, it's just a suggestion.
No, put it in. So, Steve,
so next to maintenance requirements, Steve, right? What?
Just put understanding cause and effect of non-maintenance of fire dampers.
Yeah.
Because if designers thought it was important, they wouldn't have been doing it for the last 20 years.
It's non-maintenance, not maintained.
No, non-maintenance.
Yeah.
But the timescales for likely upgrades and replacements is very important.
Okay, just scroll down now. I think how are we doing on that one? Okay, let's go on to question 3. Question 3. Right, what tasks are required to ensure fire dampers are installed, commissioned, inspected, and maintained properly? Just scroll down in case there's any headings.
Can I just read that green bit?
Sorry? Yes, sure.
Let's read that here. Cool.
Is there third-party accreditation?
There is. The SVQ and MVQs are currently just being updated for the NOS. Prodeco and AIM, I believe, have got accredited training for damper inspection and maintenance, and there's an accredited. I mean, I'm an MVQ qualified ventilation installer, and there's numerous qualifications for that, 2 and 3.
Okay, good.
5 and 6 now. So there are third-party accredited methodologies for it. Yeah.
All right, just scroll down so we can see the bullet points. Okay, great. Have a quick flick through those.
As regards to check manufacturer's method statement for commissioning, that there is a sign-off procedure, would it not be best to recommend that that's by an independent third party?
And who adjudicates that?
Well, again, there's a qualification that will be coming due. Well, I'll be honest with you, I'm not even bothered if they've got a qualification as regards to this new SVQ, NVQ. If you've got the person who has to sign it off is the person who, if they don't sign it off, doesn't get the check, miraculously the sign-off happens. I think we've all seen that. If it didn't happen, I wouldn't have a job.
Right, so what you're saying is there is a sign-off procedure by a third party?
I just recommend that he's signed off by a third party. I know we can't enforce it.
Paul, what do you think?
Independent commissioning's not a bad idea at all. No.
Cool.
It's not.
Cool. Excellent.
I was going to say, just to say, Yeah, I was just going to
Sorry.
say, just to echo Steve's point, is that the biggest thing that we find is that when we go and look at these things on a procedure for, say, digital records on site, which is the thing at the moment, I'll get really bad feedback here, is that what you find is that someone might go, yeah, it's installed perfectly to the installations manufacturer's guidance or what it should be for that frame type or installation method, but no one actually has ever verified it's the adequate product for the function it was designed to do. Is it ES? Is it E? Is it E? What should it have been to meet the risk of the space? And that's where a third party comes in quite useful.
Yeah.
Just as
yeah.
an example, this is just literally from yesterday. This is a signed off building. Anyone impressed?
Nope.
We could probably trump you, Steve.
Very good.
Just yesterday.
All right, just scroll down.
So that is a building. That's a hospital.
Right, that's
Fully signed off.
SFG 20 example.
Have they changed their maintenance from 3 months to 12 months now?
As yesterday, Richard, I think I'll go through this and pick out some best practice and we'll develop it separately.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you.
I couldn't see anything in that section about the positioning. So if you've got a hole, so metre by metre, and it should be centred, how do you know the person doesn't put it in offset to one side? It should be installed as per the design.
Yeah.
Right, was that Scott?
Yes.
Scott, could you type that into the chat for me so we don't miss it?
Yep.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay. Unless anybody's got any more additions.
You know, sorry, just you know the SFG 20. What is the maintenance schedule now for fire dampers? It used to be at one point it was every 3 months. I'm assuming they've rectified that to 12 now.
We're taking this out, Steve. Paul's going to come up with something else that's a bit more current.
Based on anything particular?
It is. I think it is 12 months, Steve.
Just knowledge and other standards and practical applications.
Cool.
Okay, scroll down, just obviously, you know, that's the point of this exercise. There's an amount of the stuff we've got in here from 2 years ago that's now out of date. So competency, what level of competency training needs to be in place? Scroll down, just let's just get as much of that on the page as we can. Oh, there you go. That's all that we've got. So, anything you disagree with or want to amend or add?
Mute myself. You know, it says follow latest best practice guidance for openings within the fire rated systems. At the top.
Sorry?
You see at the top it says follow latest best practice. Yeah. So let's say for instance we're saying BISA. Yeah.
Sorry, this was.
Why is that not follow manufacturer's guidance?
Steve, let me just to jump in. Just what it is, I'm sure you'll relate to this one as well. Is that the wall's still got its own test stand, and it's still got to be capable of standing up. So
yeah. So again, though, as regards to best practice, that manufacturer's installation methods.
Yeah, it probably should say that for the latest best practice guidance for fire resistant wall systems from those manufacturers, basically, which is the FIS work that's going on at the moment.
Sorry, can you do that slowly so just can change it?
you calling me slowly? No, I'm just joking.
Never.
Never.
That's
So
hardly likely, is it?
Oh, come on, mate. Come on. You can't take the joke out yourself. We're all missing it. So follow the best practice guidance for openings within the fire-resistant wall systems. Okay. I think at the end, I think you want to say probably something as applicable to the wall system manufacturer that you're using, or as appropriate from the manufacturer of the wall system that you're using. The amount of times we've seen openings in walls and actually the wall is not capable of actually taking the amount of openings that's in it is beyond belief.
Should we put then bracket structure integrity?
Put that in green, Jess, so I'll just correct a few little mistakes.
Yeah. You just reword it in a better way, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, no worries,
the point is, BG's got a best practice guidance that tells you how to do a wall. The problem you have is they say you've got to put 3 layers of aperture framing in it, but actually the damper test predeceived that and says you use none or 2 or 1. So it's getting that bit sort of driven out.
Which then goes on to the second one, which is use accredited installers for fire damper / duct installation. They must be competent to assess suitability of the compartment barrier and how to support and restrain fire damper in any given compartment barrier. I don't know when you're going to get a duct fitter competent to assess the suitability of the compartment barrier. And also, secondly, we normally are in there before anyone else because we're the biggest, most in the way people. So we're fitting ducting. I've done this again, dozens of applications. I'll fit a fire damper. There isn't even walls in there. There's not even external walls in.
You've got to start making Scott Fenton laugh in a minute. Honestly, mate, we've all been through this. It was crazy. It was crazy. And I think what will happen.
I don't think you can put it on the ducting guy that the wall should be right.
Now, I think what it is if the way the kind of thought process I think at the moment is that you've got to tackle the top, the middle, and the bottom. So the guy that's actually certifying the installation at the end has got a list of things he or she should check. One of them should be is the type of wall that's being used compatible.
Yeah, as long as I'm not the guy having to do it, because I just say no. It'll be your uniform no for me until you prove otherwise. Because that's the easiest, that's the best thing for me to do is say no as often as possible. I know it sounds like I'm not trying to be an arse when I say that, but the more I say no, the more I put it back on someone else and they have to prove it.
If you've not seen the David Mosley report on procurement from LLGH, have a look at it. You will giggle. It's all in there. It makes you giggle. David Mosley. He did the procurement.
Okay. Anything else on there?
Yeah, Paul, is there any that comment in greens about walls? Do we have to do anything about floors?
You probably could do the same comment for floors as well. The floor system needs to be capable of taking it because everyone's bringing in low carbon concrete slabs which are like 120-30 mil thick, and it's a no-brainer. It just ain't going to work.
Can we also put in there that the only approved installation method in a floor is concrete? It's not like it's not like the walls where it's this wall, that wall, whatever. It's concrete on this one.
Well, it's classed as other supporting construction. That's the general issue. But the bonus of it is we've got CLT testing and some other stuff we've done on different slab types, but it's thicker, denser. So we're okay on that part. So I think it's hard to just sort of say. You can say generally it's concrete.
Well, slab then. But
yeah, slab.
I've got a site with 192 fire dampers in a timber framed plasterboard ceiling. Well, that doesn't work.
Good luck.
Yeah, funny enough.
Sorry,
speak to the designer.
George.
You backheeled it. But yeah, if we can just put this after that would be nice. That the only penetration through a horizontal floor that can be installed with a damper is a slab floor.
But just hold a minute, George.
Yes.
Right, are you able? I'm working on the basis of trying to give you 10 minutes at the end. Are you able to get that sorted?
Yes.
Excellent. Right. Okay. Well, I'll carry on and try and get you 10, 15 minutes at the end then.
Okay. Shouldn't take that long. Yeah.
All right, mate. Sorry. I just wanted to get him, George, getting that prepared. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, so I think we need to have something that covers floors. So at the moment we're just talking about walls only in that green item. So whatever the wording ends up being, we just need to allow for.
Yeah, great,
floors
mate.
as
Do you,
well.
want to say some wording, Scott, for him?
Do you want to? Did you say?
Yeah. Put it. Can you put it in the chat, Scott?
Is it literally
replace wall systems with compartment barriers.
Right. What the same as the first one?
Yeah, both of them. Just put compartment barrier.
Oh, right. Okay. Good idea. Well done. Excellent.
And in the first one as well, in that line.
Well, where's this wall system in the first line? Jez?
Yeah, just you can even get rid of fire resistant and just put compartment barrier for. Yeah, that's it.
Great, excellent. Anything else?
I don't think that reads well as written now. I think the intention's there.
The again,
leave it green, yeah.
Richard, if you send it to me afterwards, I'll go through and check the English and stuff.
Oh, thanks, mate. That's great. Saves me doing it. Okay, anything else? No? Okay, let's.
Well, you know
Everybody's getting loads of feedback, aren't they? I don't know why. Okay, let's go through to question 5, Jez. Right, how are the changes from one product to another recorded? And we've got a few requirements and suggestions.
So is this in relation to an initial design being done with a specific, let's say, for instance, a specification with action air dampers, and then someone, as is the case, comes back and says, well, I can get them cheaper from BSB, and then detailing that.
Yes.
Because should that not be in the O&M?
Nothing's in the O&M unless you ask for it.
But scroll down just so we can see as many as we can. There we go.
So the intimation in this is that the designer needs to sign off any changes.
Yeah, and Steve, it's sort of do this gateway process, because the problem is that if you've got 5 key attributes, which could be 50 items that list to those attributes, if you record them at the start and you lock them in, if anyone changes one of them, the ripple's immense. You've got to have a method of saying, hold on, you're changing one thing like from an ES to an E, but you've got to be able to spot it, because as you say, the designers can't see it.
Well, you're never going to see it, because the thing is, the reason why it's changed is because of PAM notes, not because of efficacy. So you tend to find that gets changed right at the last minute when installation's done.
Absolutely. David, I'll send you the David Mosley thing now. I've got your email. You'll enjoy it. It's good.
Okay. Anything glaringly wrong or omitted?
I don't think it's glaringly wrong, but what I would say is if someone does, like Steve said, changes from company A to company B, it's not just recording it, it's also doing the impact assessment of it, because it says down here about no detriment to the overall design. But if someone comes back and says, I'm changing from damper A to damper B because I have to, that have to means, do you need to go and change the wall? Do you need to go and change something else? The fire stopping energy penetration.
All the products that are within it, Scott, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you put a flue in a wall and
Let's
install
just
drywall.
scroll down in case it's already there.
Okay.
Scroll down, just. Wait. scroll up a little bit. Right, that one, validation. Does that cover it?
The essence of it being no detriment to the overall design is right, but it doesn't mean there isn't going to be detriment. You might have to change something else to achieve the end design. So if I was going through a designer, it would be please go and do the impact assessment of it and tell us the impacts, and then investigate if we're going to go ahead with it.
Okay, so if you're going to make a change, there needs to be an impact assessment.
My take, yeah.
Okay. Scroll down, just. Excuse me. Just looking in case it's in there. Okay, scroll down a bit more, Jess. Blimey, there's loads, isn't there? Okay, start. Yeah, you know what? Below the fold, below that line, should not be there. It should be in the appendix. So ignore that.
Richard, you have a hand up with Colin.
Oh, sorry, Colin. Sorry. I was too busy staring at my mistake.
Okay, can we lose this AOV? This is a fire damper document, and they don't open, they close.
Where's that?
The top of what's showing.
Oh yeah. Right, make that fire damper.
Well, it's got the cause and effect business again, which we've dropped out, haven't we? I mean,
Right, take cause and effect. And make a note. We need to write something on impact statement, impact assessment.
I think this change management element under the gateways is going to be increasingly important.
But that as a separate thing. We'll think it's to do with that place. Just do a carriage return. That's it. That's fine. Sorry, George.
No, I'm just saying that I think this whole thing about recording change is going to be increasingly important. From what I understand, because the impact, changing something like fire dampers, I think that would be seen as being a significant change, and therefore it could go into the 12-week review. I don't know whether other people have got a view on that, but that's the change control process in the legislation requires up to, is it 12 weeks?
Yeah, it's 12 weeks, Josh.
So hopefully Steve's ambition of getting stuff identified earlier. I'm getting feedback now as well.
George,
I have a funny feeling every time I unmute. The point I'm making,
George, so do you want to go on to your
Sure.
Your bit with Paul.
Yeah, sorry, what were you saying, Steve?
Just on the change thing, my issue, yes, I do want it doing earlier. The problem is the single most detrimental point when it is changed is when you send out the drawings for the contract to continue, not pricing, not anything else. When that job is actually contracted out, that's when the dampers change, because it will say somewhere in the M&E spec, XYZ damper or equivalent.
Yeah, agreed.
And that's what, and the equivalent is 99% of the time going to be the cheaper version, because it's priced on the day and installed on the cheap. Cheaper, sorry, not on the cheap. So the point is then is at management level on the M&E side at the job is when that change needs to be managed, not at design phase.
One of the things
that comes in, that's it, it's done. That's what the spec is. It's changed when it comes to the brass tacks.
One of the things that we're trying to work on with specs and within this is the fact that we're looking for product performance in terms of a classification. We're not looking at terms of specific products. And specifications are going to have to change so that they actually put the classification in. And if they want to specify a supplier, then they'll have to do it very clearly.
Yeah, which they do, but unfortunately, it tends to say actionaire or equivalent.
No, that's
so
what I'm saying. Yeah. It needs to be specific.
I think that.
Okay, shall I, Richard? Are we done on this now? Do you think?
Yes, no, that's fine. Stop sharing.
Okay, could everybody go on mute because I'm getting a feedback. Thank you. Makes it impossible. Right, so this is what I was trying to show earlier, which is a simpler version of the document that that Paul was showing, and it's Paul's version that we actually want to work on. But I think just to get over the point here, what we're trying to do is for each of the asset types to be able to assign a responsibility against individual or the different sectors. So, for example, who needs to be aware of this information? Who needs to use it, either because they're responsible for it, or responsible for providing it, or they're accountable, or they're to be consulted, or indeed just to be kept informed.
So, George, are you sharing screen or?
No, I'm not. I thought I was, but
right.
Thank you very much for picking me up on that. What a novice area. Yeah, so
we all do it.
Yeah, so this is, as I say, a simpler version of the much better one that Paul's got. But the point is, looking at each of these information sets, what we really want to do is to understand who needs to know about the lifespan. Yeah, who needs to know about areas need to be accessible, and who's responsible for providing that information, who's accountable for it, who's to be consulted, and who needs to be informed. So on some of these, we've actually gone through already and done this RACI matrix. So that's part of the exercise that we'd like to do, not now, but as a follow-up session. So if anybody's interested in getting involved in that, we've got three sort of groupings that are coming through from this process. One is looking at the data. So looking at this from a point of view of how do we group together this information in ways that is easily consumed. So that's process. And then what we've got is application. So how is that information then going to be used? So if you're interested in spending an hour or a couple of hours after this session on the use of on improving the guidance and also making some of the changes that we all think are necessary, if you could put your name in the chat with that particular topic against it, then we'll invite you to another session to do that. So, but the other point about this was what I was saying earlier, and that is, let's identify which of these attributes are needed for which of them might be presented or provided as static information, in other words, let's say from a manufacturer, on which ones are variable. So which ones may be commissioning information, or see, for example, air tightness, mold resistance and paintability. If those are relevant items, then they're probably static because they would be maybe in a data sheet. Whereas if they're variable, those are things that are going to change. So that's what we're trying to make, so that we can make this information machine readable. Okay, that was it really.
And George,
Paul,
just
yeah,
if I just quickly share my screen, I'll make this a bit easier so you can open it, because it doesn't need to be as painful as it was. It was my fault. So
Okay.
I think it was just to say that, look, we took it from before, and there's other tabs in here which are no longer required. This is why it was causing a problem. But we listed out all the key attributes. Most of them, we've probably got a few more to add, like on the wall. So there's all the things that you can select against for one damper in the BIM world. So I'll get that back over to you so people can see it, because the wall type has an effect on the attributes, and that's part of the problem that we're finding. So to answer the big question around how you get designers to do it, I think we're a long way off getting designers to select appropriate products for walls, but I think all of these tools together will make it easier for them to not get it wrong. That makes sense. You can't, I think as you said there, Steve, you got someone on site, you're not going to expect them to verify the adequacy of the wall. I think we'll get to the point where we haven't got to worry about it. Do you know what I mean?
With BIM, with the software BIM, is there not a facilities, and I'm just sort of throwing it out there, I'm not saying there is, but like say for instance, you put a wall with XYZ integrity, and then you said, right, and then the software you telling it you're going to put a fire damper in, that it can negate any options other than what is relevant to that specific construction.
Only if you've got a rule set that can be used to actually look at all of those variables and make that decision. So BIM itself,
a minimal rule set though. That should be the only. There should be a thing whereby you cannot pick and choose anything that isn't relevant to that wall.
Yeah, I wish it was that simple. Unfortunately,
I don't for 1 second. Nothing tends to be that simple. But
no.
As regards to, because I've had discussions with people and they'll go, and even coming down to simple things like a consultant who point blank refused to have access hatches in the ceiling in front of the dampers because he didn't want his ceiling being ruined. But if it was that wall with that ceiling, then you tick a box and it goes, right, that fire damper or that smoke damper or that whatever is there, and it automatically says, right, and there has to be a hatch, or so that it's not, it's to take away the personalized thoughts of it. I think this should happen, so XYZ. Don't care what you think, I only care what's right. We all have thoughts, but if the software itself then said it's this and that's it, that would take some of the issues some of the issues that we have as regards to the remedial side of it.
Yeah, I think, Steve, we're BIM developers, yeah, and technically that is possible, right?
Cool.
Yeah, but it probably is really challenging to actually get the rules defined, and also look at how people are likely to use it. So,
George, just to say, George, so the other problem is it's getting the language agreed in such a way we all understand what it means. That makes sense. So if you talk about, it's like there's no such thing as fire rating, resistance. There's no such thing as fire stopping. Doesn't exist. It's either part 3, part 2, part. It's all these other things that causes the nuance.
Yeah,
you got to get the language right as well, because otherwise, like you look at SFG 20 in comparison to Uniclass, the things won't be lined up.
As you say, it's merely a thought from an uneducated technical side. Is that it seems as though there should be more complicated yet simpler ways of eradicating these issues. They're easy, not simple.
Sure.
Okay, well, it's about that time. Anybody got anything, last quick thoughts they want to add to anything? I'll take that as a no.
I've had it enough.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Excellent meeting. And great to see so many new faces here as well. It's been it's really very gratifying, I can assure you. And hope we'll see you again. Hopefully we'll see many of you again over the next fortnight, because we've still got another 9 of these, 5 of these, 8 of these. I'm punch drunk, I don't know, but we've got a lot still coming. So thank you.
I think it's 7.
7, okay, 7. We've got 7 more to come. So hopefully I'll see you then. If not, there's plenty happening. Cheers, guys.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Stay
Thank
safe.
you.
See you soon.
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.